Hi, I'm Jay.
And I'm R.
In this video, we'll give a breakdown of an episode of Down the Rabbit Hole by Deepak Chopra on the supernatural. So let's get started.
Do you believe in the supernatural?
Considering there is no evidence or logical reason to, no, I don't.
In order to answer this question, we have to first understand what is the natural.
That seems like a good place to start. If we clearly define the natural, then it will be easier to identify the supernatural. I think it's reasonable to say the natural refers to all observable and measurable phenomena in the universe, and the supernatural should include anything outside of those criteria.
How do we experience anything subjective at all?
That's an easy one. We have a nervous system equipped with sensory organs to perceive the natural world, and the neurochemistry to interpret those senses. And because everyone's neurochemistry is a little bit different, we end up with lots of subjective interpretations.
Even though we know we exist in our bodies, when we look inside the body, we don't find an inner self, the so-called soul.
Why is the soul a given requirement for experience? Usually we start by following evidence to a conclusion and then form new ideas from that conclusion. We don't start with a conclusion already decided and try to make the evidence fit it. So far the evidence shows that our neurochemistry is in fact what you would call our inner selves. So why do we need a soul?
So who's the me that knows that it knows that it knows?
Does Dr. Seuss give philosophy seminars now? It's you. Your neurochemistry is you. Is it so hard to conceive that you can be self-aware with just your neurobiology?
How can we even begin to ask the question regarding so-called out-of-body experiences when actually we have no idea how we even have an in-body experience?
Well, that's not really true. It would be inaccurate to say we understand everything about human experience. However, we do know enough to determine that it all takes place within our nervous system. And not knowing everything about the human experience is a good reason to be skeptical of outer-body experiences. This is a fairly tasty red herring you've offered, but you need to come back to the topic at hand and show us what this has to do with the supernatural.
There seems to be no one there.
Wait, what are you talking about?
The mystery is somewhat solved once we realize that we are not in the body, but that the body is in us.
We are not the body, but the body is us. I know a big part of your persona is being mysterious, but even you have to admit that sentence makes no sense. I also don't see the relevance to the supernatural in that statement, so what mystery are you talking about? You seem to be focusing on mind-body dualism, but you pointed out yourself that there isn't anything to justify that perspective biologically.
The world we experience, all of it, the universe, the mind, the body, arise and subside in our innermost being. That innermost being experiences itself as an observer in space and also in time.
That was interesting. Can we get back to the supernatural now, please?
Since the non-local is a domain where all is instantly connected and correlated, including past, present, and future, but also a domain where all locations in space are also instantly correlated, this is the realm of the so-called paranormal.
Congratulations, you just dished out the largest unsubstantiated word salad that I've ever heard. Perhaps provide some evidence for any of those claims?
Instant communication or telepathy, extrasensory perception, clairvoyance, clairaudience, perceptual experience of the past, prophecy, visitation by ghosts, angels, divine entities, diabolical beings.
Okay, so the difference between the things we consider to be natural and those you listed is that there is no verifiable evidence for any of the things listed. Just because singular experience is subjective, that doesn't make reality as a whole subjective. We can have things in reality independently verified by multiple people in a controlled manner. The things you listed can't be verified like that.
If we realize that both the normal and the so-called supernormal are projections of our own consciousness,
when did we realize that? How did you reach this conclusion?
they become equally explicable or perhaps equally inexplicable.
That's not very conclusive. You said nothing then. Perhaps try making sense?
Imagine a beautiful red sunset atop a mountain. You know, there's no picture of a sunset in your brain, but you experience the image.
Okay, so there isn't literally a picture of the sunset in my brain, but the neurons fired to convey the sunset to me. It isn't that difficult.
And when you look out of your window and see New York City, only chemicals are generated inside your brain, but you don't experience photons, electricity, or chemicals. You create that experience.
The neurological response is a result of the stimulus, which in this case is looking at New York City. That is the experience, Deepak. Just think about what you're saying for at least 30 seconds.
So too, you create the world, and all its possible forms exist in consciousness in the most fundamental ground of your being.
How did we get from experiencing a New York skyline to people being the architects of their own reality? You are making some serious leaps of reasoning here. People's neurochemistry can be altered with drugs, but a hallucination isn't made real because someone experienced it. Your reality is just your perception of the physical world, which can be manipulated, but that has nothing to do with the physical world itself.
That is who you really are. If you find yourself, you won't make a distinction between the normal and the paranormal.
What are you talking about? Why? Why would you just decide to consider the paranormal as part of the normal? That type of reasoning is completely irresponsible because you are removing a person's requirement to apply reasoning to anything. If the supernatural can be so easily accepted as part of reality, then you accept anything to be possible without scrutinizing it. Surely you can see here why that's a bad idea.
Because all that exists is conceived, constructed, created, governed, and comes into manifestation in your own being.
Great. So this whole thing has just been an argument for solipsism. Great work, Deepak. I'm confused at how this relates to the supernatural. Your argument has basically been, experience occurs in your mind, we experience the natural world, people can have supernatural experiences, therefore the supernatural exists, because reality is constructed within a person's mind. Like we mentioned before, reality isn't subjective, only a person's interpretation of reality is subjective, so saying something is true because someone experiences it is just nonsensical. It's important that something can be demonstrated consistently to others in order for it to be deemed objective, hence why personal experience is considered inadequate to make assertions about reality.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel for weekly videos. Like this video and share it around to help us raise the bar of public discourse.